and suddenly he talks like he's auditioning for some sort of. Have you ever noticed the fact that the moment someone gets power, the moment people get power, something just shifts inside of them? Sometimes the way they walk, sometimes the way they talk, and sometimes they become somebody that you don't even recognize, even if you hold their picture right next to them. Celebrities, they do it. Politicians, they do it. Regular people like us, we do it the moment we get some sort of little status. Whether it's a bit of status, a bit of fame, or a bit of money, we end up just changing. So today, hey, ladies and gentlemen, we're not here to actually gossip. We're actually here to talk about it. We're here to talk about the psychology behind it. We're here to talk about the science behind it. We're here to talk about the pattern behind it, because whether you like it or not, there is actually a pattern behind all this. We're here to talk about the ugly truth of why power changes people, especially those who swore they would never change. Now, if we're to talk about this, we need to actually start with the problem. You see, people change when they actually get power. And the biggest human complaint for at least a millennial now has always been, that he changed, she changed, he switched up, she switched up, success ruined him, or success ruined her. I mean, we've seen this everywhere. That regular guy becomes a politician, and suddenly he talks like he's auditioning for some sort of DC or Marvel villain. A musician becomes famous, and suddenly the rules don't apply to them at all. Businessman becomes rich, from rags to riches. Suddenly they forget everyone who helps them get there. We all know a Diddy somewhere. We all know a Kanye somewhere. And we all know someone who started off humble and ended up unrecognizable. But the real question isn't who changed. The real question here is, why does power make people act like different humans? Because to figure that out, we need to talk about the cause. The cause of why power changes people. Because first and foremost, what comes to mind is the fact that power actually removes consequences. Because psychologists, they say that the number one reason people actually change is simple. Power reduces the fear of consequences. And in the end, if you feel that you can break rules, if you feel you can ignore criticism or silence people, then why on earth would you behave the same way? If you don't fear punishment, you're obviously not going to behave, with caution. And that is exactly why people start, doing things that they would never have done if they were absolutely unknown. And that brings me to the fact that power, whether you like it or not, amplifies the real you. There's a saying that goes that, money doesn't change people. What it does, it reveals the actual you. And it's the truth. And the same applies with power. If you were arrogant before success, then power turns that arrogance into personality. If you were insecure before success, then power, turns insecurity into control. If you were if you were a very kind person before you achieve some sort of success, then power gives you the resources to become even kinder. Power is a megaphone. It's this, it's this megaphone that you just talk, like it's kind of like this mic. You talk a bit into it, but hey, guess what? I end up coming out loud. It magnifies what is already inside of you. And speaking of what's inside of you, power creates this sort of distance. It sort of creates this distance between you, and reality. The higher you rise, the fewer people can actually tell you the truth. It's not because they don't see it. It's not because they don't know it. It's actually because they don't want to lose access. They don't want to lose access to you. They don't want to lose access to your money. They don't want to lose access to opportunities that they'll get from you. So what happens with time is that power ends up isolating you. You stop hearing no. You stop, being challenged. And when you live long enough without this friction, you start to believe that, hey guys, I'm untouchable. And for that to happen, it means that with time, power has actually attracted the wrong people. Because when you're successful, you don't know who likes you for you anymore. You end up attracting people, like you end up attracting the opportunists, the loyalists, the yes men, the cheerleaders, and people who only want what they can actually get from you. All they want is what they can benefit from you. You end up surrounded by people who protect your ego and not your character, and it just creates this sort of false reality around you that you just sometimes you get trapped in it, that you don't end up realizing what exactly is going on. And one of the reasons why you end up not realizing what is going on is the fact that it's actually been proven that power actually changes your brain chemistry. You see, this isn't philosophical anymore. Pardon me, I was about to bite my tongue there. But it's not philosophical anymore. This is actually proper biology. You see, studies have actually shown that power actually boosts dopamine. When it does that, it reduces empathy. It also increases risk taking. And it literally with time changes how you process information. So when people say, "Oh, success changed him" or "success changed her," no, the brain changed them. The brain changed her. But to move on and really hammer home how bad it really is, we do need to talk about the effects of what power does to society, because it doesn't just affect you. When it affects you, it does affect the society itself. You see, when power changes people, it doesn't just affect them, it actually affects everyone around them. Culture, it eventually gets corrupted, because when powerful people become reckless, it normalizes bad behavior. It tells society, if you have enough status, ladies and gentlemen, you can do anything you want. Anything. And eventually, fans end up becoming blind, because people, what are you liking up? Most people worship fame. So when their quote unquote idols become this really toxic person, these people tend to defend the bad behavior instead of questioning it. And that, whether you like it or not, protects the power even more. And with time, you end up having a situation where accountability actually disappears. Because powerful people, they don't lose control by accidents. They lose control because everyone around them has let them lose that control of themselves, or lose control of their actions, or control of things that's going on. But like a problem, there's always a solution. And like someone I know said, a problem is called a problem because there's a solution. There is a solution on how to keep power from actually changing you. So here's the thing. You see, if power changes people, the question is, how do you stay grounded if one day you actually get it? And this is even me talking to me now, and not just to you. First of all, you need to keep people who can actually call you out. You need at least one person who isn't scared of you. One person who doesn't give a shit what you've become, pardon my English. Someone who doesn't care about your status. Someone who can actually say, "Hey, dude," or "Hey, girl, you're wrong." You need to stay connected to reality. You need to do things that humble you. You need to spend time with people who don't care about who the hell you are, who the hell you've become. You need to do normal tasks. You need to remember your beginnings. If there's any way, whether it's keep pictures or videos or something, about how you started, where you started from, things that actually things that remind you of that and actually ground you, keep you grounded. You need to be able to separate your identity from your power. Oh man, this is the hard one. Because the truth is, if your whole identity is built on fame or status, you will protect it even if it's destroying your character. It would be like Gollum and the Ring. So in the end, you need to make sure that you do not let your title become your personality. And this is one of the reasons why I personally do not like titles, because the truth is, titles are temporary. Status, all that status, fame, money, power, all that, it's temporary. But your character, your reputation, your effectiveness, your legacy, that is permanent. And fourthly, and here's the thing that most people tend to not realize, is the fact that you need to expect power to test you. Because what you like or not, power isn't a reward. It's a test. I'm going to repeat it again. Power isn't a reward. It's a test. A lot of people see it as an end, rather than a test that gets you to the actual ends. I don't know if that makes sense. Let me know in the comment if that makes sense. And most people end up, failing this test because they don't see it as a test. They don't even expect it to be a test. So in the end, I've blabbed and blabbed and blabbed on and on. But here's the truth, guys. If there's anything you need to take anything you need to take away from this, these are the facts that power doesn't change you overnight. It doesn't change people overnight. It changes you. It changes them slowly. It changes them one small compromise at a time, one lie at a time, one moment, of feeling untouchable at a time, and by the time you realize it, or by the time they realize it, they've already become a version of themselves that they swore that they would never become. In most cases, they become a version of themselves that you don't even recognize. This monster that you're just like, what on earth? Because what you like to know, whatever is within, it will eventually manifest itself on the outside. So hey, ladies and gentlemen, I want to hear from you. I want to actually hear from you. What do you think? What do you think people? Why do you think people change when they get power? Is it the environment? Is it the money? Is it the person themselves? Why? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I like to read every single one of your comments and reply you, and let's get discussing about it. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching this. I really appreciate it. Please do not forget to subscribe. This has been the Blunt Experience, a place of no filters, no fear, and just the truth. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I'll see you in the next video.